pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you as well.
Yes, thank you for asking me to be a part of this. I've watched some of your videos and love the energy coming off the videos. They were amazing. So
thank you
love
very
what
much.
you're doing. Love what you're doing.
Oh, we're changing the world one person at a time.
Exactly, right? That's what's happening. You know what? I think it's working.
It is.
I really do. I think we're making progress, you know? It feels good. I think that we've got some really positive things coming up. So I'm excited.
Me too. Actually, I saw some of your work as well, and I was very inspired by it. The simplicity, the full trance channeling. I'm also working with myself on becoming a better channeler or a better channel myself, but it's like I have a limiting belief if I can get to the full trance channeling. Yeah, I get the intuitions, I get the answers, but to let go of the Ray character, put him aside, that's something that I probably need to work on a lot more.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part. I think that a lot of people are actually trance channeling, but they think it's their mind. It's like the mind takes over the mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I wish, there's a lot of people that ask me to teach channeling. They want me to teach classes in channeling, and I've not done it so far because I feel like everyone's so unique in how they're meant to do this. And in my client sessions, of course, we're always visiting spiritual gifts and, things that are emerging for everyone in their own uniqueness. And I've just seen across the board how different everyone is in the way they're supposed to tune into energy, that I feel like it's really hard to even teach a class in this. Of course we have the basics, but it's almost better to work with your own guides and get your own avenue, your own route, and get all of the noise out of the way of what everyone else is doing, because I think that helps you the most,
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. So, all right. So what's your plan? What are we doing here today?
Okay, so my plan is to get as many questions about what we know as the energy of Prana, the pineal gland activation, to have people minimize their attachment to physical food and begin working on their light body, enriching their light body, and thus detaching from physical food, even to a percentage that they become a Breatharian, some of them.
Okay, good. That sounds great. As a matter of fact, I think there's perfect timing for this, because I just started channeling some information about this this week, not necessarily about Breatharianism, but a lot of people are struggling right now in their physical bodies to make this transition, because they've raised their consciousness and they're awakened in such a way that they're adopting these new practices, but we kind of created this material in an old dimension that we're no longer in, and it's really working with both sides of it, the consciousness and the body. And so many people are really focused in the body that they can't make this shift, and I've noticed even a lot of healers that I work with are struggling with energetic depletion and adrenal fatigue and those types of things right now. And I feel like there's some answers that need to come up about that, but we're going to go in your focus. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of information coming up about the body and the lightening of the body right now in my work. So
yeah, it's a time of a shift. That's why many people are feeling it. And also, people who are still resisting reality in any way, going in the path of resistance in the last few years, the struggle has become much greater, because we have to become who we were planning to become. We can't let it go. So the physical has to show it.
Exactly. The resistance of that is the big issue we're dealing with. Yes. So, okay. Well, great. When you want to start asking questions and you want me to start channeling, I'll just pop in, and I've already been connecting, so I'm kind of ready.
Do you connect only with your guides or something else that I need to know?
We'll probably work with multiple guides. I feel like today the Pleiadians are the ones, and the Council of Light. So the Pleiadians are a 9th dimensional collective that I work with. They've been here today kind of preparing for this interview. And then the Council of Light is a 12th dimensional collective group as well. And they usually come in for a lot of my live channelings, but especially about topics like this. So it's across the board. Whoever needs to come in will come in. So we'll work with a variety, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm going to focus like 70-80% on that, and probably going to ask some personal questions about my role in this.
So you want me to start off just in a channeled state right off the bat, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. Give me a minute here. Okay, we're ready.
So I would really like to ask first, my name is Ray, and thank you very much for being here and helping me and the rest of my participants or humanity while we're ascending into the next physical dimension for us, or vibration. I would like to know first if you have any particular message for me for this session.
We are the Pleiadians, and we are pleased to connect through this transmission, not only for the betterment of your own knowledge, but for all those who come to it. We allow this vibrational message to flow through us in a way that is unbroken and uninterrupted. We invite all into this collective space. And we would say that in terms of the message we want to bring forward, especially for you, in this time on the planet, there are many that are undergoing what we would call a very dramatic shift between dimensional realities. Within each dimensional reality, there are many timelines that have been created. So if you could imagine the human consciousness in this moment operating in several dimensions with timeline energies that are imprinted in those dimensions, this is where the struggle comes in. And many that are beginning to understand that their physical bodies hold this information are looking to be able to reorganize that information. And when we speak of reorganize, it is because the human collective is manifesting from this information disease. How does disease manifest in the body, or even disconnection from source, we'll call it? It is truly through the imprinted energy that's held in density that is no longer equal to the being that you are becoming. So when there are separate dimensions that are held and timelines that are holding those dimensions for you, you are actually operating in two different identities. Perhaps a third dimensional identity with timelines that no longer serve you, and perhaps a fourth or fifth dimensional energy and identity that has new timelines that you have created that perhaps are equal to your desires. When the body is involved and the manifestation of material is involved, it's a consciousness, and it takes in all information and holds it in neutrality. So when we are considering the way that we nourish our bodies in this specific dimensional plane of reality that exists where we are moving very fast at a fast-paced speed of reality, we have to consider that the adjustments are coming very fast and that our consciousness has to be involved, that energetically everything that we are assimilating in our experience, in the way that we nourish the body, and in the way that we speak to ourselves and others holds the recipe for how we transcend the material that we have created and really move into a collective space. Because when we are allowing ourselves to let go of density, we are reconnecting to the one. And this is truly the energy that the human consciousness is within. Connecting to the one is the goal, because that reconnection in itself, which many, we would say, are frightened of, holds the key to healing the planet and ascending humanity back into a state of heaven on earth. Mm-hmm. So the work that you are doing in particular holds value because in the shift of consciousness and the creation of material in relationship to the one, there is a stronger source connection as well. And when you are equal source, all things benefit. All beings benefit. So it is not just the transgression of your own density and your own physical material, but this type of connection to all things through the energy field and through the body allows for the healing of all things like it.
So we call this energy prana here. And what is prana? How would you define the energy of prana?
We define the energy of prana as the existence of all things, or the essence of all things. When you were created in the likeness of a 12-strand DNA. Prana was the energy of all things as the basis for your creation. So when you are using prana, you are actually using what we would call a definition or a mixture of several different elements. It's the element of truth or source in all experience, coming together as one. It is the energy of the planets and the energy of the sun interacting in what we would call a fluid nature of being. And also, it is you. Because as you were created as an organism of one, you are equal to that prana. So the more that you connect to it and bring it in, the more you are fulfilling of and within the self. The prana that you bring in, that you feel is outside of you, is actually a part of your own creation. So when you are separate of source, and let us say that, again, we go back to the physical material and there is perhaps a disconnection of the body and a disease has manifested. This disease is showing you the disconnection from source, or perhaps the relationship of your energy body to the united record, the Akash, the energy of all things. So when you're bringing prana into the body, you're restoring yourself through all things. And we were designed in order to assist all things. There's a connection. And let's take the breath, for example. The breath is a crystalline state of energy. So when you're using the breath in a crystalline state, you are activating the organism of the body, the aura, the chakras, as well as all things that connect to those organisms. And there's an input and there is an output. The input is taking in the equilibrium of what is needed. The output is sharing the equilibrium of what others may choose to also accept. So in the same way that the divine nature of Mother Gaia supports the breath and what you might call oxygen or nourishment of the body, there's a two-way flow. There always has been. There's been a connection to Gaia, an input and an output. In the human consciousness, this has been given to you as the breath. And as the breath brings that prana in, you are bringing in more of yourself because you are bringing in source. And source is who you are. Source is made up of all things. Many would encourage not to accept the energy of other beings. And we notice that human beings on the planet often restrict their breath or protect themselves from other beings because they do not want to inherit energies that are not serving them. And this is not of a concern when you are speaking of something of the record or prana or source, because there is a state of neutrality in which all things balance. And in neutrality, even what you might consider negative experience or even karmic experience becomes transmuted and changed so that it can be utilized, understood, and aspected as something that the body and the soul and the mind and the spirit can use. And it's even a natural source of what we would call Gaia. They call it Gaia source energy, and they show me, Pleiadians show me, the inner core of Gaia. And that inner core actually having a torus type flow where her crystalline core is offering into this field, this beautiful energetic material. And it's coming back through her again. It's recycled. And it's expanding her every time it comes through. And it is the same with the breath of the human consciousness. In a crystalline state, you're expanding yourself. There is knowledge in prana, in life force, in information. It is taken in and it is assimilated where it is needed. Mm-hmm. And all things come back into balance and neutrality.
What would you recommend, except for breathing exercises, to be the best methods of raising the pranic energy in the human body?
There are two ways in particular that we would offer our advice or our wisdom on. And first, we would say that the Kundalini energy in particular is a very valuable source, not specifically only to bring more life force or prana into the body, but to activate all of the cells in the body to work together as a one organism. What we find oftentimes is the reason human beings have gravitated to material types or third dimensional types of nourishment is that their cellular organism isn't functioning as one. And as a matter of fact, we say the example of disease we will bring back in. When there is a disease in the body, there is a consciousness. And this consciousness is made up of many cells that are operating outside of source consciousness or that have taken on a sacred geometric harmony that is not equal to the rest of the organism. So raising the Kundalini energy through ancient practice will help to bring all of this cellular function together in order to, we'll call reconnect it, or create pathways in the structure to be able to use the life force energy or the connection of the prana in relationship to life force energy much easier. In addition to that, we believe that the way in which the ego or the mind has been taken outside of the constructs of its original state are precluding you from being able to use the life force that is within. Many perceive that they must receive their own energy or their own life force from something outside of them. And you were created again in a likeness of a 12-strand DNA. And as the human consciousness evolved, it knew that as a part of a one energy, all things were provided for. But when the attention through the ego became focused outside of the self, not only for substance or nourishment, but for many other things such as teaching and understanding its environment, there were many patterns that were formed that were, we'll say, responsible for taking the human collective offline in their connection to their own consciousness. So the two aspects that we highly recommend would be raising the Kundalini energy or practicing an ancient tool of Kundalini, but also working on the understanding of ego, not as a reflection of outer, but as an acceptance of inner. And in terms of consciousness and conscious awareness, this is very key, because when you feel that everything outside of you is responsible for your interaction with the universe, it is a disconnection of source. So remember that all things that are within are the tools that you need.
So like everything is a reflection and we are responsible for everything we think is circumstantial in our life.
Yes, this is true. We are, in terms of universal beings, holographic beings from the nature of the mind and the emotional body. What the ego has done, though, is it has created a false premise. And that false premise is that there are things outside of me that I am not creating, that I must have in order to be in a state of creation or in a state of energetic balance. And that is not true. So there's a big disconnect, or we'll even call this a time-space reality that exists between who you truly are and what exists within you and what your ego or the mind has taught you you are, and the use of everything outside to sustain that.
I understand. Would you give us a very short exercise in raising the Kundalini energy?
We are pleased. We're going to get the council steps in a bit for this first. Okay, so we're working with the Council of Light, which is a 12th dimensional collective, and they are also here collaborating with the 9th dimensional Pleiadians. And we bring in the breath. In this moment, we ask you to center to the heart. Within the heart center is the ability to bring all of the cellular organism back together as one. But the heart center is connected to many other centers in the body. So we start this breath as an in the nose and out the mouth, beginning to pay very close attention to the way the breath feels in the body and to any physical components of the body that may be holding themselves opposite of your truth. We ask that in order to raise the Kundalini and activate this one organism, that all beings in a state of meditation as they are breathing remain in their body. We know that there are many activities that you follow that ask for you to leave the body, to activate the light body and go elsewhere to communicate. But we believe that in this time, especially on the planet, the more you are in your body, feeling the energy as it connects to your consciousness, the more you can tune to that one energy, that one source connection. So with the breath, what we ask you to do is pay very close attention to the areas of the body that are holding themselves as separate. And these may be areas of pain, areas of disease, there may be restrictions in any of the chakras. And as you note them, use the breath to activate the heart first. Opening the heart creates a telepathic response between your cellular organism and all things around it. We believe it's very important to have an open heart chakra in order to activate your life force and your Kundalini. The Kundalini energy is served within the lower chakras. So as we continue to breathe, opening that heart space and feeling into those cellular areas that are restricted, we offer a crystalline or a golden light. And as you feel that light enter your structure through the heart, you can begin to raise a pattern of energy around the body. And they bring it to meet up the front of the body, around the back, and through the lower chakras, breathing up the center as a crystalline core into the heart. So we're raising the Kundalini from the root and the sacral chakras, and we're bringing it straight up into the heart in order to activate our telepathic sense and bring all of our cellular energy to the center core, to the center of our being. With each breath, what you can imagine now is a circular pattern around the aura, around the body, creating almost a toroidal flow, similar to what we've shown over Mother Earth, how the energy goes through the center of her core and around her body and back in. This is the type of flow that we wish to create. So it starts in the heart, it goes down through the sacral, up through the middle of your being. And when you begin to feel it enter the heart, this is where the breath can be activated quite, we'll call activated quite dramatically, to bring it through the throat and into the third eye, up through the crown. We bring in the deep breath and we hold it for a moment. And as it's held and released, we can feel that energy begin to ascend through the throat, into the third eye and into the crown, out the top and back around. So we're going to simplify this as you are in this state of the breath, the crystalline breath coming into the heart, descending into the sacral, into the root, coming back up and creating a beautiful pattern of energy between the heart and the root in a very egg-shaped pattern in your aura. As you begin to feel that pattern, activate the breath more frequently with a dramatic in and a hold and a dramatic exhale. Bring it up through the throat, into the third eye and into the crown, and begin to see that it's a torus shape around the body, activated in a crystalline energy. This will assist you, especially in the way that these cells will accept life force and bring it into all areas of the body. The heart is a pivotal place because within it, remember, we have said, this is a one energy, this is a one source energy. The heart knows that telepathic connection to all things. It knows how to find neutrality. So as that light source comes from the sacral and the root through the heart, we activate it outside into our aura and we bring it up through the center of our throat, our third eye, and our crown, embellishing all of our aura and back through.
Wow, this is really amazing. It's very, very powerful. Thank you so much. So I will continue asking some more questions. Well, from what I understand from what you said, most of the pranic energy comes from our connection to Gaia. Is there some universal that comes from the rest of the universe?
Yes, and we are pleased to explain this, especially in this time. It is important for human beings to understand that there are several crystalline containers that you are operating within. And we will explain those crystalline containers and the way that you can activate them fully to envelop the universal energy that you so desire. Many of you have been very used to working within the soul container, the crystalline soul energy. This is your singular being, your singular perception, all of your creations in this linear timeline, and the way in which you perceive those linear creations. You've been working with healing in the soul energy, and many of you have been visiting past timelines, for example, or past experiences that you have had in this life and clearing them, and this has been a very important stage to go through. The second crystalline container is the one that we feel you are most prominently activating in the moment. We call this crystalline container the higher self. The higher self is the energy of Gaia. It is your planetary experience, and we understand that many of you know that you are not singular in nature at all, that your soul is divided or fragmented into many other earth experiences in this moment. The higher self has knowledge of those timeline experiences and those other linear lives, but it also connects to Gaia in a way that the record of the earth is available. When we spoke about Prana earlier, we were talking about the Akashic record and the input and the output of that. There are many levels to dimension in operating in that Akashic record or in that state of energy. The higher self and Gaia is present in order to assist you in reconnecting to the one. And this is why we say the healing on the planet is beginning to take place, because many of you have activated the higher self through your awareness, through your consciousness, through the way that you have accepted your own life force. You have brought this crystalline state of higher being into what we'll call an active state of consciousness or creation. But the higher self and soul has not been working together properly. We want to speak to that in a moment, but we want to give you what the third container is, and this is the Oversoul. The Oversoul is a crystalline container that is universal, and what it allows is the understanding of all 12th dimensional realities. Of course, you are a multidimensional being, and your soul is also experiencing multidimensional lives in this very moment. The Oversoul being a valuable tool, we complement our experience through the knowledge that the Oversoul is always bringing the planetary experience to all things. So the planet as a being is connected to a universal record, and all things connected to her are part of that record as well. Our Oversoul can use that energy to assist us. Now, the way that the higher self and the soul can begin to work together is through your conscious state of awareness and your deliberate intention. Just understanding these three crystalline containers vibrationally will help you to move beyond what the material you have created is allowing in your experience, and to use the life force and the prana energy of the planet to heal yourself and all others. The intersection of the soul and the higher self is directed by you. And we'll make the analogy of the eagle soaring over the landscape. When the eagle is soaring over the landscape, it doesn't just see one thing, it takes in the whole picture. And this whole picture frequency is truly your free will, your sovereignty. Those of you who are awakening are accepting your sovereignty in a new way, but you must apply it in your day-to-day life in order for that higher self or that planetary Gaia energy to truly work for you and activate that crystalline container to bring more information that's beneficial, not only for your healing, but for the activation of your higher dimensional chakras and that oversoul. So we encourage you on a day-to-day basis to ground and connect with Gaia, especially in what we'll call the next several months, where you are activating through the solar energies new information. We'll speak of the solar eclipse that's coming up. We believe that the solar eclipse has been directed by the human consciousness as a very beneficial energy, and it will bring more information within Gaia and within her chakras to make it available to you. So the more that you ground, especially connect to her and meditate with her, bringing her through your body, the better you will connect the higher self. But also choose the awareness in your day-to-day of what that higher self, that ego brings. Before you are making physical action, take the vantage point of the higher self and remember all of the energetic tools that are now at your disposal. The frequency of the physical body has changed. And because of this, when you are choosing material or third dimensional, they say devices or nourishment or tools, they often will not complement where your consciousness has arisen to. And for this purpose, the pausing and the using of a higher self container can be a very valuable experience in the way that you choose differently the energies that you wish to accept. We want to bring in one more message to answer your question about Gaia in particular, because she is a living, breathing being, and what she offers to you is more of yourself. You are of her and she is of you. And when she is going through dramatic shifts in her own energy body, those dramatic shifts are affecting your vibration. In particular, when these solar energies activate her chakras, there is going to be a large movement towards the energy of sovereignty. That is going to be, they show me, the breaking down of hierarchies on your planet, especially in relationship to things like healthcare, the medical institutions you have built, the government and the teachings of the government, as well as the structures of finance. And as this is taking place, it can lead you into the disillusionment that there is a path that we have taken that is wrong. And we support that as Gaia Sophia is offering this new sovereign frequency to you, these changes are necessary. And what you will find is that they will bring in what has already been created on the other side, which is new sovereign tools and the lack of hierarchical structures.
When is this going to begin occurring? Like, when is I know it's like a domino effect and we're waiting for that one big piece to start falling into place. I've been tracking a lot of different groups and they're all talking about now, you know, the stopping the debt, helping a large finance that has been kept aside for many, many years that is about to come right now. Is it coming like right in the coming few months? And I'll just say we're in July 2017 right now.
This is the Council of Light, and we wish to explain the way that the planet is evolving in response to your question, because there are many aspects of your reality that affect the collective. And when you speak of finance, for example, we will use that as the example as we work through this domino effect, as you have called it. What has happened here is that there has been a lower vibrational reptilian collective present on your planet. Their consciousness has had a very dramatic effect on your physical structure, as well as the creation of many of these hierarchies. As you have raised your consciousness and as a collective have reassembled to the degree that it is necessary to override these physical experiences, this reptilian collective has lost its strength in terms of creating through you and upholding these hierarchies. So it is your consciousness that directs all experience and all abundance. You are source creator, you are God. Everything that is sourced through you. As a collective, you are having an experience, and as a singular being, you are also having an experience. It's being that is a direct effect of all things that you perceive. So as we go forward and talk about this domino effect, it has a very important connection to your timelines. In other words, there is not one answer. You are creators. And through the mind and through the emotional body, you are always creating new collective timelines. When these planetary energies come, and we will speak especially of the solar eclipses that are coming this year, the one that first comes in August, and there is a second that comes in February. These are a part of your record. The solar eclipses come to bring you more information, to meet you and match you at the vibration that you are in. When we say match, this is a critical word because these potentials that are running must be matched in order for manifestation to take place. But manifestation, as you know it on your planet, although you think it is collective, is truly singular. We know that you perceive a collective energy, that it is the same as everyone else perceives it. But the only thing that's happening is that through holographic reality, you are connecting timeline energy and crossing and intersecting with others. And you are making your own assumptions about this collective energy. So when you speak of a grand financial payoff, for example, that grand financial payoff, we see more as a matching of a potential timeline that will disrupt a hierarchical structure that will cause a dismantling and a recreation to begin. But what will happen is some will tune into that in a negative light, and some will tune into that in a positive light. And this is the key. The way in which you perceive what's happening within the collective is the way in which you receive that payout. Because every singular being will have a manifestation equal to the consciousness they're matching. So if you've already created a desire to receive this financial abundance as a collective, and the hierarchy is broken apart, and the energy of the planet matches this positive timeline for you, you will see the shifts in your personal life and your personal journey, which are equal to the abundance you have perceived in the collective. So from our vantage point, we see the healing of the planet becoming more cohesive because you're coming together as a one and will recognize the abundance in your own lives, taking away the need to receive that abundance from structures outside of yourself and taking the vision inwards in order to manifest and match timeline energies. And we want to speak to one other concept because we do believe this is very important. And there are many on your planet who have been speaking of wars, dimensional wars or world wars taking place. This is a potential timeline that is also running. It is historic, very similar to the timeline of collective abundance. And you can match that very easily as well. The way that you match that is through your perception, through your consciousness. So what has happened here is that there are two forms of collective consciousness that are vibrating on your planet in this moment. Some that are in a third dimensional or material construct of reality, and others who are ascending beyond into a fourth or fifth dimensional state. Eventually, all beings on the planet will be equal to a fifth dimensional energy, and there will be two separate realities. These realities can notice each other, they can coincide, they can intersect, but they cannot create the same manifestations because they're different dimensions. So that timeline of world war, if you believe that that is coming, your individual experience must harness the matched energy of that frequency, and it must show up in some way in your experience. And souls have contracts. Souls are magnetic as well. So if there are many souls that are anticipating this timeline of demise, and they believe that it is going to happen, they're vibrating in a frequency that matches it, and they match each other. So those beings may come together and experience something that is similar, or may experience something together that is equal to that timeline. This is truly how it works. So to your question, would it be possible for us to give in linear time when this financial payout that you perceive is going to come. We would say that we could give an estimate that you are you are vibrational beings anticipating a financial result. And as vibrational beings, you are always changing. The quick pace of your thought process is equal to the vibration that you offer. So imagine all of the thoughts that you have in one day accompanied by a strong imprint of emotion, and how that can affect all things. That is a chain reaction. So our best advice to you is to stay very neutral with what's going on in the collective. And if you have this type of an expectation, to really become less linear focused and more in tune with your inner world and your outer manifestations. And the more that you draw on that, the more you will begin to see exactly the way the planet is being healed.
Okay, thank you very much. So back to the pranic nutrition. We call a pranic living person, we used to call it a breatharian, but people had a misconception with that, thinking breatharians don't eat and don't drink at all. We call those pranic living are the type of people that just simply don't get hungry, and their body is nourished much more from food, much more from energy, much more from their meditation, or just their belief. And in that, I wanted to ask, what are the benefits of living this type of lifestyle according to your perception, and which civilizations live like that, except for a few percentage of the people here on planet Earth?
These are the Pleiadians stepping back in, and there were many civilizations that have used this type of breath work or living experience. Most of them have been interdimensional beings operating here on the planet in different realities. So especially we talk about Lemurian collective, we speak of the Atlanteans. Many of these beings have walked your planet and held what you call an inner state of consciousness, and knowing that there is no need for material existence beyond their own structure. You see, many of the interdimensional beings that were present here on this planet were involved in your creation. So when the human collective was born, it was born of the DNA of many of these multidimensional beings, and they had already ascended beyond the physical plane of reality. Some of them by choice, some of them because the vibrations of their planet would no longer support physical material. And that is what is within you. So this 12-strand DNA that we often speak of, you focus on the human side of it and the disease that you may have accepted, or the genes that you may have accepted from your parents or your parents' parents, but you forget to consider that there is a crystalline state of energy within that 12-strand DNA that comes directly from these light beings. The way in which light beings use this process is they are activated in the light body to the point that the density of physical does not come into play in the way that they must interact with consciousness. So human beings have accepted a more material or physical existence, and there is nothing wrong with that. Your soul desired to have this physical experience, and so it is that you are here. This physical experience did not have to be ingrained in what you might call a material type of nourishment. But that is what you were taught, and that is what you accepted. So you trained yourself into a vibration that required this type of substance. Those who are practicing breatharianism or meditation are doing several things. They're activating first that crystalline DNA energy. And that crystalline DNA is very purposeful indeed, because in the same way we've talked about the Akashic record, or everything that exists, all that is being around you and coming in and supporting your life force, that crystalline DNA is actually activating your light body to interact with all of those things. Your light body is always working, regardless of your consciousness. So there are some who have not ascended beyond a third dimensional state of reality, but their light body is always working. The problem is they do not have the connection to their light body to allow it to affect their material existence. And this is truly the advantage. when you are meditating, when you are practicing breatharianism, or any state of lighter being, of consciousness, you are connecting the light body to your physical material by a time-space reality quickening. So there's a time-space reality that exists between your light body and your physical material. When you are activating that light body, the material of the physical body and the light body activation becomes closer together. There is no time lag. There is no difference between what your light body is experiencing and what your physical being is experiencing. And that is why there is no need for food, or there is no hunger, because the light body is absorbing everything that it needs in every moment in order to accompany creation. So when you speak of these beings, we want to bring in a second point, and that is telepathic ability. Many of you think of telepathic as just communication, sending messages back and forth of the mind. But truly, telepathic ability is the ability to intersect with all things. And that is the job of the light body. The light body, as you are sitting perhaps in the middle of a picnic in nature, you may be having a conversation with another physical being, but that light body is exploring all nature in the field. That light body is moving through the blades of grass. It is moving through the trees. It is moving through the sky, the water, the insects, the animals, and it's bringing it back to you. You are always connected to all things. It is your consciousness that is the key to accepting the information of the light body. And that is the result that you are finding in many of these people who adopt these
So
practices.
you find the pranic living have stronger telepathy, stronger light body, and that's why they can communicate subconsciously, not in a mental level, subconsciously with everything around them, and have more nutrition from nature itself or from their own being.
Yes, and also we wish to say that the activation of the crystalline DNA overrides the imprints of the carbon-based DNA. This is why many who adopt this practice find themselves in a state of longevity, where perhaps linear years do not affect the physical body as dramatically. Because anytime you are activating that crystalline DNA and the light body is doing its work, you are, they say, rising above linear time in a way that you don't have to use linear time to create through.
Can a person also be eating normally and still activating his light body in such a level just because his consciousness is in the right place?
We would agree with this statement. However, what we wish to say is that everything you bring into your consciousness or into your material being is information. So if you are choosing to eat a certain substance, and we'll use two examples. We'll say there's a substance that has been tainted by chemicals or a substance that is an animal product. There is information in all of those substances. So the toxic chemicals would bring information into the body. And all that information is a field that the light body and the physical body have to work through. In other words, it creates density in between that time-space reality that you're trying to bring closer. So it's harder to operate in the light body if you're bringing in certain substances with information opposite of what it is. You always want to match the information of the light body in order to quicken that time-space reality between your material existence and what it is taking in. So the animal product, very similarly, it is a consciousness. And there can be animal products that have a high consciousness, and there can be some that have a low consciousness, but regardless, that information has to be assimilated by you because all of your being takes it in, regardless of whether it's energetic or it's material. So we would say that the statement, you could eat however you desire and have the same result, would be false. You could still meditate and you could still activate the Kundalini and work with Prana, and you would have very great results in your ability to use your extrasensory and your telepathic abilities, as well as activating the DNA. However, you might not see the same effect in your linear timeline with manifestations, creation, or your material existence of the physical organism. And the reason for that is you're putting information into the body that has to, in some way, be neutralized.
So what would you recommend? Would you recommend to only eat like fruits, the highest vibration that the trees are actually offering? Or can some people just sin occasionally, and what is okay? Because I think that my audience would really like to know.
Yeah, so every being on the planet is vibrating differently. And this is what is important to remember, because in this time, we are moving between several different dimensions. As we mentioned, there's the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And all beings are operating in one of these dimensions on Mother Gaia at this time. So we want to bring in some very practical examples. What we believe ultimately is magnetic beings wish to choose the equal of what they desire to attract. So if you wish to attract a higher vibrational connection to your light body and transcend linear time, you're going to want to choose substances that are equal to that crystalline state of Gaia. Now, nature was seeded here by interdimensional beings. So when you're looking at pure forms of fruit, for example, that come off the trees, or even root vegetables, for example, many of those hold that interdimensional information because it didn't come from Gaia, it was seeded here. And this is why we always suggest that the more you gravitate towards the equilibrium of Gaia or source in your nourishment, the more you will find your physical reality complementing what you desire. But you also have to take into account the dimension that you are holding. So would we recommend necessarily that the human consciousness gravitate towards animal products? We understand that many of you have done this in the past, and this has been your way of thinking or what has been taught to you. But we, again, encourage you to think of the vibrational match that's taking place and the information that's coming into the body. Some will have a difficult time adjusting away from animal sources of protein. And the reason for that isn't because the body isn't set up to heal itself from that. It is because it is within your consciousness to accept that you need that source of energy from outside of yourself. Very similar to the message we brought in about the ego and the ego looking outside for what it needs from within. And you may say, well, the plants are outside of me. But we would say you are an organic state of being. And plants are an organic state of being, both of you connected to Mother Gaia, so you are equal. Now, as you are moving through dimensions, be very careful to pay close attention to the body and how it's adjusting. This is why we talked about in the activation that we offered, staying in the body as much as possible during your meditations and really feeling into what you're doing. Because when you make these changes, the body is always going to announce to you what it needs. So as you lighten up the body, what you'll begin to find is your body will lead you to exactly the right sources of nourishment that it needs for its vibrational state and where it is heading.
Yeah, I remember I heard about an experiment they did with young kids, about 3 or 4 years old, and they were always going towards the food that the physical body actually needs. And because we are, as adults, a little bit more confused about the world and about emotions and about our breath work, then we obviously don't really know exactly what is good for us. So great answer. What has really changed? You know, I know ancient religions had a lot of fastings. And when we're talking about pranic living, a lot of people are talking about fasting, detoxing the body. And to become a breatharian or a pranic living person, you need to first go through an initiation that allows the physical body to transform and the consciousness to accept that it has changed now, and it really requires an amount of food that is impossible to understand by scientific means. What would you recommend to do during that initiation? Currently, I'm doing 4 days of dry fasting, plus a lot of exercises, meditations, and guided breathing techniques to allow the placebo effect to occur, to allow the process of the transformation of the consciousness and the physical body. Is there something that you can add to that? Something that like a magic thing that I can use?
And we are the Pleiadians, and we're in agreement with this process. The reason that this process works so well is that you are going back to the organic state of living. And as we mentioned, when the human consciousness was seeded here, and you're speaking of the ancient cultures actually knew of their interdimensional DNA. If you look at many of the ancient Aborigine cultures, for example, they were speaking directly with interdimensional beings, or what they called gods, through their telepathic nature. It didn't come from outside of them, it came through them. So when you're doing a fasting, there are two things that are happening. The body is receiving itself again. And remember, the consciousness interpreting that it needs something from outside is really manifesting in the material that we have. So when you begin the process of accepting that there is nothing coming in, there is a very important connection of the mind that has to be made. Because if you go into the state of fasting in fear, for example, you can bring the imprints up that must be released from the body of having to need food, but the fear will hold on to them and exasperate them. And the results, we would say, wouldn't take place during the initial states of teaching. You see, imprints are actually very strong encoded beliefs that we've held in our consciousness. This fasting process that you're going through is designed to break those imprints, to bring them to the surface and to let them go. But if we're in a state of fear during that process, what we can do is we can really activate that imprint, and it can hold on in a way that perhaps 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks down the road, it really becomes exasperated in us, and that the body can have a failure. So we say the most important aspect of this process, as you have been doing it and we are very supportive of, would be the mind. Because as the mind is going through its own experience, those imprints that come up, creating mantras that are opposite of them, are going to be key in making sure that they're completely resolved and let go of the body.
That's exactly what we do. Do you think that anyone can do it? Anyone can become pranic living right now?
We believe that those who are most ready have already undergone an awakening of the soul, and we've talked about these crystalline containers in our previous message. The reason that we say the awakening of the soul is important is because the soul energy complements the connection to source or the one. And as the higher self is activated and then oversoul is activated, the light body can come together. It is almost as if those three containers become one. So we believe, yes, that anybody can do this, but it would be quite important to at least understand that in the soul awakening, you've already done some precognitive work, that you know your sovereignty exists, because sovereignty is a very big piece of what you are doing. And you may not recognize that as a part of your practice, but there are many states of sovereignty that beings on the planet are struggling with right now, whether it be in the choices that they make to do their work, or the way they might be negating who they truly are. But the body is a very important state of sovereignty, because we have been encapsulated in something very physical and human that has taken us outside of our truth. So those beings that recognize they have the ability to choose the way they create their material are best suited for this type of work. We are not saying this to eliminate anyone, because as we mentioned previously, all beings were created in the likeness of a 12-strand DNA with an activated light body. So you all have this imprint within you. So any being on the planet that is human can assimilate this type of practice and have benefits. And we wish to say also, and actually this is the council coming back in, they want to correct. They say, we believe that the soul work is very important, but this type of breath and connection to all things can activate the soul journey and can have a very positive result on connecting the sovereign truth of the being to all states of its reality.
And what is the part of the pineal gland in activating the light body and doing it in the way I teach?
The pineal gland, and this is the Pleiadians coming back in, the pineal gland is a very important source energy, because when you have activated your pineal gland, you are able to easily go through that fasting process or that detox, that reconnection of the cellular energy. The reason for this is if the pineal gland is calcified, there is a disconnection from the universe or from source. So when we talk about that third state of the oversoul, the crystalline container of the oversoul, that sits typically at the upper chakras. So we talk about the third eye, the pineal gland, and the crown really being the universal interdimensional component of this type of practice. So the third eye can help in not only extrasensory vision or bringing the self into the center, but also allowing the nourishment that's coming into the body to be assimilated in the areas that it most needs. And it's interesting the way that they show me this because, we think about the stomach or our gut being a brain. And when we put nourishment into the gut being the brain, will send it to the areas of the body or the functions that need it most. And if that gut isn't functioning properly, then we might fall ill or things will not digest properly and we don't have the nourishment, the energy that we need. And they say that when we're working with the light body and we're working with prana, it's almost as if that third eye, that pineal gland kind of becomes the gut. It's like the interdimensional gut. It has the ability to direct this nourishment that's light encoded, that's crystal, through the body to the right locations.
Great. So what will be, except for longevity, how come chronic living people or people who eat significantly less have less disease? Is it just a consciousness thing, or is it because they have less toxins in their body?
Well, there are two aspects of this we want to explain, and this is the Pleiadians. They say that those that are holding disease are either holding it because of the information in the body and the way the consciousness of the body is interpreting that information, or they have a karmic experience that they came to have. So when you are not eating food, the food in itself is a density. Remember the information. And let's talk about this in a way that relates to karma. When you have a lot of information in the body to process, and remember all those timelines you've created, you're going to be matching timelines not through your conscious awareness or direction, but through what exists within you, what you become. It's very similar to how we said there are timelines of war, and through your awareness, you can match that timeline of war, or you can match a timeline of peace. When you're bringing food into the body that is perhaps holding a consciousness of fear, or a consciousness that is chemical related, that is information that will match timelines. So what humans will often experience is they come with ascension codes and they come with a plan of things that they want to experience here. And the planets will revolve around their physical body to allow these experiences to erupt. And some are karmic, but we match them and we create them through the information in the body. So those that are eating less food, they're really operating in their own information in clarity. So their manifestation process or their creation process isn't clouded by dense information that isn't equal to source, truth, who they are. It's a more clear state of creation.
That is exactly what I thought. And this is also the reason why so many of the participants have a lot of synchronicities, because one of the things I do as a guide is teach manifestation, not only in a spiritual way, but also about abundance and financial and relationship. And right after the process, people begin seeing how it works just because they're in a different state of being. That's amazing. That was just like perfect. Okay, next question. How would you recommend a person that is living the pranic way of life to ground himself? Because some of them begin, flying around the spiritual realms much more, and they wish to ground themselves to stay here, like you say.
Yes, the Pleiadians say it is important to ground, and we want you to consider that many who are operating in the upper chakras feel as if grounding is a more solid material existence, but truly Mother Gaia is a multidimensional being, and as she has undergone much transition, and especially back in 2016, there were many solar activations of her DNA grids. What happened was this allowed her to connect to you more fluidly. So when you are grounding, it isn't bringing you into material so much as it is enhancing that interdimensional connection, because Everything comes from within her. So there are many practices that you can adopt, of course, to connect to Mother Gaia, but every being is unique in the way that works best for them. We especially suggest that if you are not using a plant-based energy to bring into the body as nourishment, that you use plant-based energies in other ways in your life to ground. And this can be essential oils, for example, on the body or used in the home. This can be plants in the home or using a spot in nature to meditate. Just bringing nature in other ways in your energy will absorb that information and will actually enhance your multidimensional connection and the synchronicities and the guidance that you're receiving, because within her is that record. She is the connection to that record. And further, we would say that when you connect to Mother Gaia in a way that you're grounding or you're bringing that plant essence around you, it's the same as the last example. We talked about bringing information into the body and how you have to sift through that information. And when you are using a pranic type of tool in your life, the aura becomes very activated to bring information in, similar to the way we bring food into the body. So to have those plants or that nature around you is actually accepting the information through your aura. And the benefit to that is that the aura takes the information in a quicker speed of time. So the grounding that you might perceive as something negative, or I have to get into my physical experience, actually helps you to manifest concretely. Because when we have that essence of nature of Mother Gaia providing information to us, we're able to use our creative energy equal to that. And they say that if you've noticed lately, the Schumann resonance of Mother Gaia has been accelerating constantly. And you can think of, from a pranic lifestyle in grounding, using that speed within your manifestation process. Because when you connect to Mother Gaia, you through the heart chakra and through the aura, you are neutralizing and accepting her speed of vibration. So it's very helpful for you to bring in these grounding tools.
Thank you. How would you advise me or recommend me to attract more people to the pranic living lifestyle, except for the benefits we already discussed?
Well, we would say that is already taking place, because those who hold a very specific contract are magnetic in that contract, and their divine record will align to the calling of the collective consciousness. So what we see is, we first want to say, and this is the council, that over the course of the next 2 years, the human consciousness is going to experience very dramatic shifts in their physical body or their physical material. The reason for this is they are transcending their reality. So there are many who are going to struggle in the physical body and be looking for solutions that are different than the ones that they are giving in these hierarchical structures. These beings will be coming more for the healing essence of the body, as opposed to activating their consciousness. In terms of what you must do, you only must be in your present awareness, in your present moment, within your source energy and within your truth. And those that are meant to come will come. But after this 2-year process, we believe that many will begin living this lifestyle more on your planet. And the reason for this will be because they can no longer accept the density, the information or the density that they have been in their physical bodies, and balance their energy in a way that they are comfortable and feeling energized and free in their creative experience.
Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about me. Can you tell me where my energy came from, which planet, or where I spent most of my time, and how long I have been here on Earth?
Yes, so they're giving me, we're going to work with a specific guide who's stepping in, and his name is Goliath. He's a Pleiadian guide, so I welcome him to this transmission. And what he first wants to say is that as a soul being, you have been a part of many different dimensional energies. So there is not one, but there are many. There are times in which your DNA will match certain experiences that you have had in dimensions in order to bring it through you for understanding, growth, wisdom, and expansion. For the purpose of what you are doing today, you would say that there were several lives we will bring forward. In particular, the Lemurian collective and the Atlantean collective are the two that are most presented to me. We bring in the Pleiadians, of course, because there's a Pleiadian connection as well. But what I see is that they all connect together. So they show me this being that is you in the center of this galaxy, and working with a variety of different beings from your Lemurian experience. And in particular, it's genetic-based work. So I see that the Pleiadians have a specific type of information in their DNA. The Atlanteans, they work with crystalline structure, and they communicate through a crystalline structure, and their DNA becomes activated through that. What the Lemurians know is the telepathic exchange of the heart. And you've been on assignment in many different dimensions to understand the activation of the DNA and to almost, I don't want to say hybridize it, but I want to say bring the knowledge of it together to be used here on the planet. And they show me that in ancient Lemuria, there was a teaching that was brought forward, and that teaching had a lot to do with the way that we could use our organism of the body to teleport anywhere we wanted, to actually, it was like take the information of the group, the one collective with us, and then bring it back to benefit the one collective, because we were always in alignment with that. What the Lemurians know really well is that one connection, that one intention, how we're all a unique part of that. But you've been on assignment in various dimensions, bringing that information back to enhance the ability of the Lemurian collective.
Is this also the reason why right now I'm in Hawaii and I just finished a 10-day process initiation? Is this the reason why it's so easy for the participants? Because I give them a part of my energy, which is based in here, Lemuria, old Lemuria as well?
Yeah. The energy that you're giving them comes also from a source connection, and that's what's important. So we'll talk about creating a portal. When you're doing your work, the energy that comes through the heart center is a connection to source, and that source creates a portal. Portals are very valuable. And so think of yourself in the midst of all these different, in this galaxy, working with all of these different forms of collective consciousness. You would have to be working with various beings in the same state of reality. That's really what you do here. The source connection comes through the heart chakra. It opens up a portal, and anyone that steps into that portal for your teaching is able to receive information energetically through you. So it's a vibrational exchange. And those teachings do come from ancient Lemuria, but they come from other dimensions you've had these experiences in as well. So think of, remember how we said that the breatharianism, or the process of using the prana, is activating the crystalline DNA. And remember how we go back to the original creation of the human consciousness, and they hold all of that different DNA within them. You did that work before. You've done it before in another dimension. You're just doing it here on the earth in a different way. It still connects to you. So there's not just one group of beings that is present in that portal, because you're working with so many different humans, and they're all vibrating in different dimensions and different speeds. So they're going to need different guides to come in and support them. They're going to need to activate their consciousness in different ways. So the portal space allows that. Okay, it's connecting people to source. It's finding a neutral space where all beings can connect together in a one energy and walk away with the same intention, operating uniquely in their structure.
So I'm creating a big portal that allows their guides and my own guides to come in.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So again, about my past. So I understand that I have a past in Lemuria and in Atlantis as well. What was before that? Because I feel kind of separated. I feel like very ancient and very powerful. And I really would like to know what the source of that is. I know I've been traveling a lot. I know in Sirius, I know the Pleiadians a lot. I know here on this planet, which I've been kind of like stuck in for a very long time,
right,
for various reasons. What is my source? Where do I come from? From which dimensional energy? What is the vibration? And also,
yes,
am I connected with my love, with my future wife in that way? Are we the same higher soul?
Well, all beings come and originate from source. So source is a 12th dimensional energy, and that is by which you originate. But what you are asking is, what is the original source? What is the most important thing that I feel in my human experience? Because you are feeling of the timeline information that you brought with you. So we want to clarify that, because if it was only one thing, it would be a very easy thing to explain. But being an evolved soul here on the earth, as well as working in many dimensional realities, we could choose many timelines to focus on. In particular, what we want to say, and they show me, they're going to take me to the earth now, okay? Because earth is, although you've been to the earth many times, and I see that you're an evolved soul on the earth, you've come to the earth with a very strong interdimensional connection. And they show me that almost as a rainbow field in your aura right above the crown. So when you came to earth and you held this multidimensional connection, you used it in a variety of different ways. And they kind of show me this ancient tomb and this pyramid that sits around it. And when you went into the tomb, there was water. And the water would transcend the energetic field within any human being's structure. And there was, I see levitation too. So there was a lot of teachings that you brought in from other dimensions here. Lemurian was a very big experience for you. And I'll tell you why, because they say we always want to match what you vibrate as most, because you've been so many places and you've done so many things that it would be impossible for us to bring it all in. But we bring in this Lemurian experience because we've been talking a lot about the transcendence of the human consciousness, going from the third to the fourth to the fifth, and all these adjustments that are being made. What happened here on Lemuria, in Lemuria, and the continent of Lemuria, and the dimension, was there was a splitting of timelines, very similar to what's happened here on the earth. And that splitting of timelines involved some beings deciding to become physical and other beings deciding to stay non-physical. And the physical adjustment of those Lemurian beings was a very difficult timeline energy that you assisted with. Because imagine going from that crystalline state of being, that intergalactic light body activation, to receiving everything you need, to going into a physical state where the dimension was lower, the density was greater, and you had to perceive things outside of the self. So what happened in that splitting of timelines was the contract that you had made, that you had already worked with a variety of these different beings, enabled you to be able to take that information and come to the earth and assist those physical Lemurian beings in their journey. Now, you've done this in many ancient types of cultures as well, similar types of splits of the tribes, or where the tribes found themselves in relationship to the earth. Sorry, pause on that. In relationship to the earth without the resources that they needed. And then they show me that also you've been a healer here before with these ancient tools. So when we speak about your past in particular, and you talk about your fiance, they want to take me into the Christ timeline a little bit. There were many of us that walked the earth during the Christ timeline, and we knew exactly how to change the water into wine or how to help the blind man to see. And it wasn't because there was a faith in anything outside of us. It was because there were interdimensional beings that were teaching the way to do this. And you most remember that. And I think that the standpoint of this relationship comes from a lot of timeline intersections, but this one in particular is a real big one. The two of you have been in Lemuria together. You've watched that timeline intersection take place, or dissection, I should say. And there were many struggles there that you brought, you had to leave. You had to leave your cosmic family. You had to leave behind people or beings that you loved, and you had to move into a different plane of reality to help those that became physical adjust to the non-physical. And that's really what you're doing here. The remembrance of that comes through in your teachings. We are here as human physical beings that have been taken offline, and you are using those times of the Christ consciousness, those times of ancient Lemuria during a timeline split here, similar to what you know, activating the DNA, helping people find again the light body, and helping them source back their connection to the Christ, right, through their DNA.
Wow. Good answer. Well, if I'm talking about my fiance, we're now pregnant, and she's having a really difficult time. And she asked me to ask, what does it have to do with, and does it have to do with her cat dying? I know it sounds kind of silly, but maybe.
No, I don't think it has to do with the cat at all. So, okay. Raphael's kind of stepping in and showing me some things. So it's not nutrient based, but there's some proteins in the body. There's some proteins in the body that are not, they're not doing the job that they need to do. And we talk about proteins. It's not like the protein we get from animals, right? We have proteins in the body. Is she feeling sick?
Yeah, quite often.
Yeah, because I see that. And it's like, you know what, this is what I want to say. What Raphael is showing me is there's some kind of an overabundance of a certain kind of protein that she has in her body. And that's what's making her feel nauseous. But I don't think it's a negative thing at all, okay? I think that this overabundance of protein could actually be a good thing for the baby. And it feels to me like, again, the child that the two of you are having needs a little bit different type of information while he or she's in the body than what a different human might need. So being on the earth, we're not really used to creating in the body the way that your fiance is creating these proteins. You know, think of it this way. They say we have so many hybrid children coming to the planet now. They have different needs than we had when we were that age. And even in utero, they are receiving so much, and there's so much going on. And a lot of the women today that are having children are having more, it's almost like this spontaneous creation of specific fluids that assist and support the development of these multidimensional children. And it is throwing them off because they can't feel grounded with it. You know, it's like when the earth shifts and we have these really heightened planetary energies, we feel a little off balance, we feel a little dizzy. These proteins that are being created in the body for her in overabundance are actually supporting the child because it's needed for the development of this child's consciousness. But to her, it's something kind of foreign. So it takes an adjustment. And I think that she will adjust to it. All right. And I kind of feel like it's not forever. I think that what she's going through right now can level off. And it's not anything that she can do. It's just something that her body's going to adjust to.
Okay.
And there's a rhythm too that supports this, right? It's like there's a heart rhythm too that supports this. I want you to know. So she's, you know, we all feel a little more tired when we're pregnant. But for her in particular, the heart rhythm catching up to all this information in the body is going to be quickened a bit more. So she might need a little more rest.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So going back to me, since I was in Lemuria and I had these supernatural or super abilities, what can I create here? Like, can I learn how to levitate? Can I learn how to full trance channel? What is the best for me to work on in those gifts?
Okay. Yeah. So your extrasensory gifts lie mostly in the crown and in the, they show me especially around the ears for you. So I see a lot of vortex energy around the ears. I see a lot of vortex energy around the crown, and I see a lot of ancient guides sit around the crown chakra. What they show me for you especially is being led to a lot of different information. So it's kind of like this navigation system that you have within. And remember the telepathy, right? Sometimes we think telepathy is communication, but telepathy is actually leading us and guiding us to meet information in the field. And that's the way this has worked. Levitation is especially possible because what happened in, they show me, it's just like as a Pleiadian being, you know, you being in connection with the pyramids and some of the work that was done in the pyramids. And there was a lot of different activations that took place within them that allowed the human consciousness to transcend their field of reality. Even when we go into that Christ consciousness energy, it's the same. So you've done it before. The most important thing for you to remember is that when you're working with other human beings, your higher self is truly engaged, but sometimes your mind might override that because you have a certain teaching, you have a certain type of energy that you work with, and you like to script, and you've gone off script, and not necessarily, I'll say it like excuse me, a solid script, but I'll say, you know what you're doing. You've done this in the past. You've done it so much.
Yeah.
Right. That, see, we have to understand that when the higher self is engaged, excuse me, it's always going to lead us to exactly what we need to complement and expand who we are and what we're doing, because the human consciousness is going to call for that. So the reason the ears are vortexing right now is, and I think you're in a portal energy right now that's assisting this. So you find yourself in a place on the planet that's activating you further. These portal energies, we're not talking about the one that you create, but we're talking about the one that you're in right now, is going to help to access more of this interdimensional connection, because, and for you, they show me a lot of spinning. So, vortexing water, vortexing the body is really helpful for you. And the levitation itself, the guides really want you to understand that you could do that now. Practice doing it in your consciousness first, because remember how the time-space reality between our material and our consciousness is the way that we can do this stuff. And if you started in the conscious awareness, go into meditation with the intention to levitate and allow this transition to take place around the ears, you're going to probably get more information about how to do this. And they actually show me some things in your hands too. They show me the swirls, the healing hands. So I think you have a new type of healing ability coming in that's going to complement the work that you're doing as well. But practice in meditation, practice in your consciousness, this state of telepathy and this state of levitation. And what you'll find is the body will soon begin to catch up, and you'll notice it just with a limb. Like I see the limbs wanting to move up, the arms, the hands starting to move up a little bit, or the feet starting to move up a little bit. You'll notice a different stance in your body. I kind of get the goosebumps all over, the feeling of the energy wanting to pull the body up. And they even show me for you, because you have so much experience in the multidimensional energies, moving things with the mind or telekinesis, is another area for you that would be very easily assimilated. And when we have this difference between our material and our light body, that's a faster speed, we can really use that. We can, they say, project it into material. So play with that as well, because that's another.
How do I play with that, and how long do they think, if I'm really put my mind into it, I can get results that will, make me have a bigger motivation to do that?
You could see results tomorrow, they say. I think, I really feel like the telekinesis is for you a very good way to go to get into this whole levitation thing, because you might find really fast that your power, your energy can project to moving objects, to shifting nature really quickly. And that in itself, that ability, when you get that, it's not something that has to be taught. It's something that has to be felt, they say. So when you feel that, you're going to be able to use it in other ways. Okay. So yes, I think that there's no question you could, as far as the levitation, they don't ever like to give linear time, because again, we're vibrational beings, things happen, our soul changes, everything around us changes. But the things that we have within us, the gifts that we come with, it's our free will, it's our choice to activate them whenever we so choose. And I think right now, this transition that you're going through around the ears and around the crown and this portal that you're in is really coming to a close. So you might feel like you're ready to bring something new in. You'll be guided to that. And in using these practices is going to help you to, whatever this new healing technique is. I kind of feel like, they keep showing me moving objects with the mind, moving objects with the energy. And then they show me the healing hands and sitting in this portal that you create with others, really sending in some different types of healing. So you might bring some information together here in the next 6 months about the way in which your teachings and your session work will include some activation and healing energy.
Okay, great. Is this the last time I'm here? Is this the last incarnation for me here?
They say it will be your choice because we are evolutionary beings, and as earth beings, we have a soul record that we continue on. And the energy within your soul has been fragmented into several other lives. So it is not just this one linear life that you're paying attention to right now that's ongoing. There's many others. And those have to also conclude before you make a collective decision. So I kind of feel like they take me back into the water for you, back into Atlantis. And it's almost as if your soul is really ready to continue this work in a different form. Remember, sometimes we come back to Earth, but we come back in our multidimensional energy to assist humans. So we might think, oh, well, I'm never going to choose an Earth life again. But you might choose an Earth life as a different type of being that comes in to support something. So like, remember that Lemurian teacher that left the collective to follow those that wanted to be physical, right? That wasn't something that you wanted to do, but it was something that you knew you needed to do. And that's the way your soul's operating right now. You know, this human experience isn't something that's ultimately very comfortable for you, but the choices that you're going to make will be in collective agreement with all beings when you transcend. And what I see your desire is on another plane of existence, or even that of your higher self, is to really come back in your Atlantean, Lemurian energy as a multidimensional teacher. And I think that what you might find is it's going to be at a time on the planet in the future when many of these beings that were here before walked the earth and are going to come back.
Yes, I definitely feel uncomfortable here since I was a child. And I understood that. Like, I didn't understand it conceptually yet, but I understood that I'm from a different place and came here to do different things. Especially, I was guided to become a guide, and not guided, I was pulled into it. Like, yeah. I had absolutely no choice. And I know that angels or higher state beings, they don't have much of a choice. They just do the position that they were contracted to do. So I just decided to let go and allow spirit to guide me to where I'm supposed to be guided to. I wanted to ask, I know there's 1,000 ascended masters or something like that. Am I one of the ascended masters? And if so, have I ever been an reincarnation of someone famous?
Yes, the way in which this works, you see, is very similar to how we explain timelines. Every soul on the planet carries some DNA of an ascended master. And the reason for this is that when you come into a physical body, you make a collective agreement. And in that state, you are interconnected with all teachers, all masters, all beings. And those that are most important to the work that you are going to do here integrate with you. So have you been here as an ascended master before? We would say you have, but that ascended master was always connected to all things. When we move into a state of definition of the self, we can go beyond what the earth considers ascended master, because many of those beings have also been multidimensional at some point as well. You in particular, they bring in Michael, the softness of Michael for you. So the Archangel Micheal energies, or the ascended master. Michael is one that you've walked the earth with, you've walked the earth as, and you hold information of. Michael, being a being that has come forth in many different timelines, actually chose to work with those who were suffering most in their soul energy. And you can see the relationship to the soul energy and the containers that we spoke about and how we transcend those. In addition to that, remember the Christ consciousness energy that they brought in, the Yeshua, the energy of Yeshua, and how that Yeshua energy, that Jesus energy, is a part of you as well. Because when you walk the earth with the disciples, you walk the earth with the Jesus, you bring those imprints together and they hold within you. So oftentimes we have beings that want to associate with one ascended master, and we have people that are told in specific connections that they were that master, they were that Jesus. And how could we have so many on the earth that were Michael, that were Jesus, that were Mary? Well, the reason for that is because they've chosen a part of their fragmented soul energy. Your soul fragmented into many beings, and ascended masters have fragmented into many beings. and their information, the way that they teach, the way that they embody their truth for the human consciousness is through those humans that have accepted aspects of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, another question. Am I supposed to become a global consciousness movement leader?
Well, you already are. What the Crystalline says, you already are. There, there are many who are light beings who, through their contract or through their agreements, decided to come at this time on the planet in particular, because human beings were resolving this, what we'll call earthly karma. And as they are splitting themselves into two different dimensional timelines, there are some that are meant to serve one or the other or both during this time. And we would say, yes, you certainly are.
Great. Do I have unresolved karma with a specific person that I need to work on right now here in this body?
Gabriel comes in.
Hebrew definitely comes in.
Yeah. Well, what he wants to say is there's a couple of times. So he shows me there's a couple of timelines that hold karma. We all have karma. We must in order to be here, because in this density, karma is what keeps us in alignment with our soul experience and expanding through it. In particular, the karmic timelines that I see, there's one of father, son, father, son, father, son, going back in time. I don't know if this is father in this life so much, but what it shows me is it's almost like a fathering energy. The desire to father, the desire to teach. And sometimes the father energy is, it takes responsibility for everything, right? We know the third dimensional father, he said that it takes on that job, that teaching job, and, is working the 9 to 5 and then coming home and feeding the family and all these things. It doesn't take care of the self. And for you in particular, this life, you really are overriding that karmic pattern of the father-son relationship. But I see communication being a big part of that as well. So there's something in the throat chakra that connects to that karma of, men. I think men in particular too are an interesting part of this timeline, because we know that from a spiritual standpoint, we're integrating our female energies, but also in general in the conscious community, there seems to be a little bit of a lack of men. And they're catching up to women in this area. And so I feel like there's some karma there. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something you're meant to suffer through or you have to resolve, but it's something that you came with. And it feels like a little bit of a roadblock to me. It's like, how am I going to resolve this information of, within myself, of my past linear experience and what's going on in the collective? Okay. But the second area, it's not really a person, a karma of a person so much, but it does feel financial. So there's some financial karma that comes up. And I don't want to say it's a lack vibration, but it feels like owing somebody something all the time, or maybe feeling like you owe somebody something all the time, or maybe that coming up a lot in your life.
Well,
so,
I grew up in a poor house, and I think I still have some fear-based karma that has to do with that, and I'm working on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's and Gabriel says the soul energy is really what that's all about, because we connect the multidimensional piece when we work at the level of the soul, and we come with the karma we do for that purpose. But in that financial energy, I feel like there's a lot of light in that space, and what he shows me is, we choose, he says, as children, we choose exactly the experience we need to have and the parents we need to have in order to understand what we're here to do. So not necessarily that you're working in the area of finance, or especially understanding that energy, but he says, how is it that currency is equal to nourishment, right? How is currency equal to, spiritual living? And that's a consideration that might come back around for you in a different form, in a different way. So I think both of these timelines, although they're karmic, we don't actually perceive karma as positive. We always look at it as the struggle. But it's here to integrate into our work in some way. So both of these are here to integrate through you and into your work.
Great.
Yeah.
So how can I continue to help humanity? What is the best way that I, Ray, can really help? Because I feel a very strong urge to help Gaia, to elevate her frequency and to help the suffering, especially on the planet right now.
Yeah, this is Goliath. He comes and he says, the continued work of your soul contract is what is enabling you to be of support in this time, but especially living your life in alignment with your own truth, because those that live their life in alignment with their own truth are serving humanity more than anything they may do outside of that energy.
Mm-hmm. And how can I find my brothers and sisters? I feel like I have a family out there and we're all alone and I'm trying to find them.
Yeah, Gabriel says there are many light beings in this time who find themselves feeling alone or disconnected. And what's happening is there's a major shift going on the planet where timeline energies and dimensions are recrossing. And he attributes this to the grid. So just to get into a real quick analogy, we have a grid of timeline grid of information. It is a Akashic record energy. And that grid was recently activated. Actually, several times it's been activated since 2016. And it was kind of a shakeup because we activated positive timeline energy and everyone has to adjust or integrate that. But it's magnetic. So when we activated those positive timelines, what happened was a lot of healers and teachers on the planet, light beings that are serving, found a very big clearing or a very big void of their energy. Because whenever we're preparing to magnetically connect to things that we need or that will assist us as things are changing on the planet, everything has to fall away first in order for us to create that new charge, that new information, that new structure. And that's really what's been taking place. So in particular, the guides want to say pushing that in your physical reality isn't going to be necessarily helpful, but flowing with what is will, because that grid alignment has already taken place and you've already been through a very big integration point. And we feel as if many of you are on the precipice here of being able to now reconnect to your soul families, your cosmic families, as well as those that have the resources to support the work that you're doing. You see, many of the friendships, the relationships, romantic relationships as well, the people that have been around us, the contracts were formed in a different dimension or a different energy and they were served. So now think of it as we're leveling it up. We're raising our soul to this new dimensional space and we're attracting the things that we need in a different way. So it really is just a matter of time from this point on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that sums it up. Thank you very much for everybody that came and so many answers, so many illuminations.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was my pleasure.
Do you remember everything that we talked about?
Oh, I can't possibly.
Yeah,
no.
That's what I thought.
No, I can't possibly. And it's a good thing I don't, because I would just have way too much going on in my head all the time.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it was really great to meet you.
You
Thank
too, Michelle.
you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
All right.
And aloha.
Okay, take care. Have a great day. Bye.